mentioned the Wine by the Glass program and how you've really revamped that. What are some of the other accents that you've added to the program here at Maialino during the year that you've been here? What are some of the things that you really think are exciting that you want to share with people?
Well, speaking purely in the world of wine, I've increased the list quite a bit, and it still has a perfect selection from everything from a $28 bottle to, you know, at this point now, the most expensive bottle was like $2 something, and now we've even added a couple that are a little bit more high-end than that. And I guess, you know, right now we're doing summer, since it's summer, we're doing some happy hour pours, some wines that you can come in and get for $5 class, which is really pretty exciting. We do food specials, so weekdays from Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m., you can come drink $5 glasses of wine, eat $2 little bar snacks, and essentially, you know, have a great little after work or, you know, late afternoon meal here at Maialino. Aside from that, I guess I would say I keeping the integrity of the pricing, which
you want to be able to be affordable to people and then try to read a tradition.
Yes, and that's actually, that's kind of a Danny thing. When I started, he was very you know, clear to me that the whole idea of this restaurant, this is a trattoria, and it's supposed to be a place that people can come and comfortably enjoy a meal without feeling like they need to break the bank. But in other Danny fashion, he also, you know, we have some special availability on some Quintarelli and some Rocca di Manzoni wines, and you know, you can drink a 97 Rocca di Manzoni Cinque Vineyard Barolo for under $100 here. And that is pure Danny. Just, it's cool for fellow wine aficionados to come here and see things. A 98 Bartolo Mascarello for $140 a bottle.
And certainly one of my favorite producers, a great producer. Barolo.
Exactly. And be able to say, wow, this is so great that, you know, due to the fact, like, bottle cost aside, this has exactly age on it and isn't all over the place. We could jack it up, but we don't. We're very much, we want to keep wine at an affordable price so that people can come in and enjoy it and enjoy those great wines, because they're here to be enjoyed. They're not here to be held aside for people who either love them and care enough that they're willing to, you know, fraction up a portion of their income for wine purchases, or people who
Stop talking about just me.
You know, people who have the money that it's just, nah, whatever. You know, we want people who are passionate, enthusiastic, who maybe also work at restaurants and they're not making $1 million a year, and they can still come and enjoy 98 Bartolo Mazzarello for, you know, on a splurge evening for $140 when it could be on another list for twice that price.
For easily twice. And I think, again, that's what you were talking about before in terms of bridging the gap between the grower and the consumer and getting those wines on tables and really showing people what these wines are about.
Yes.
People who may not know, may not drink Bartolo every day.
Yes.
So what are some of the other things? When you're picking wine, you're with a distributor or an importer, or you take a trip to Italy as you have before, what are some of the things you look for in a wine that you really enjoy? What are some of the things that you say, besides cost, you know, obviously looking for strong value as you talked about, what are some of the things that are important to you? Regionality, traditional winemaking, natural wine, what are some of the concepts, or, you know, when you enjoy one glass as opposed to another, why is that?
Well, that's a very good question, because for me, it is again, it's slightly about the integrity of the winery and the winemaker, making sure exactly it's somebody who, it's not mass produced, it's not like they're just banging it out and they don't, you know, have any connection to the bottle. I personally enjoy putting wines on that are, you know, very close to the grower, to the producer's heart, that they, you know, exactly, they're in the vineyards. I do tend then to lean towards traditional winemaking for sure, but unfortunately, just due to the fact of this is a restaurant and we have all sorts of palates that walk in the door, you need to kind of cover your bases for sure. So I definitely look to have some modern wines on the list too, and not say that
a little bit fruitier,
a little bit more fruity, a little more approachable, and white, something that's got some oak on it. And it's not to say these are bad wines, and I won't say that. And actually, it frustrates me when my staff either is like, "Oh, I don't like this." It's like, well, you need to understand that you may not like it.
You can say about wine, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't like it.
I don't like it. It's like, you need to understand that you may not like it, but there is a wine for everyone, and it's all a different expression of the grape and the land and their choice of how they deal with that grape when it gets into the cantina. And we need to appreciate it all, because you'll never understand the whole spectrum unless you can embrace all these different styles. So for me, it's definitely a balance between getting the small grapes in, that to make sure that people know that they're there, and at the same time, it's as much as I feel like anytime somebody brings me a grape that's like weird or off the beaten track, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll taste it. But if it's not standing up to me as like, I'd be impressed by this, then I actually probably won't select the wine to put on the list, just because that kind of works against me. Because if somebody comes in and has a Galliopo and thinks, meh, there's a reason that we don't know about Galliopo, it kind of only enforces their own mindset that the reason we all know Cabernet and Pinot Noir and Chardonnay are because those are the only grapes worth drinking. So for me, you know, it's like, as much as I love the oddballs, if the wine, if it's not balanced, if it's not showing a specific character, if it's not showing something that it offers that something else doesn't, and maybe that something that it offers is that it's terroir. Maybe it's like, this is a really weird, funky white. It's so smoky, but it's being grown on a volcano. And I love the fact that you can taste that volcano in it. And so even though it may not be for everyone, it's here for the people who can enjoy this type of thing. And it's also here for allowing people to understand the terroir speaking in the glass.
So speaking about that in terms of the options that you provided for people and some of the great wines that you brought forward for people really searching out not just things that are different, but things that also provide high quality. When people come in who are guests, who maybe are here for the first time, how do you think that they could best approach your list in terms of finding a great wine for themselves? What are some of the things that maybe people overlook, or what is it that you would like people to know about what you're doing here?
Well, unfortunately, I think that there's a lot that gets overlooked just because people are like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is either. But I think that what I wish, the base knowledge I wish every guest sat down at the table with, is that not only my own personal style of wines, but Italian wines in general are not, for the most part, about beefing up the wine. They very much want the varietal to speak. Even if they throw it in oak, and even if they try to make it a little bit more voluptuous, they still, at the end of the day, they are looking to express the varietal, I would say, 80% of the time. Or I would hope 80% of the time. And so sometimes when people come in and they want a really big wine, and they say Brunello's big or Barolo's big, you know, you have to kind of let them know for a second, like, well, it is big in certain ways, in that it's, you know, with Brunello, it depends a little more on the producer, I feel, but especially with Barolo, depending on the year, and you have to let them know that it has tannin, and that's why it's known as a big wine, but it's not necessarily a big wine. And so I feel like the one thing I wish that people understood about Italian wine was that most producers are not looking to misrepresent the grape. And so as such, you're not always going to find those big wines. And you just need to kind of embrace that, and also just that they have acidity, but so does Italian food. You think of tomatoes, you think of some of these items, and other like items like these rich creamy cheeses like the roviolas, and they need acid to cut against them. And that's why Italian wine is so great with food. It's just that it has that. And so those are two little things that I guess I wish, and I guess I would say that as a guest coming in, the best thing they should do is ask for help. You know, our staff is incredibly knowledgeable, they're very warm, and they're excited. They want to help you. So there's no need to feel like, I don't want to look like I need help with the wine list, because with this wine list, it's very likely you will. And just also guess that when people sometimes are like, they want to spend $400 and they're wondering why those selections aren't there, it's because we'll give you a fabulous bottle for $150 if you're willing to be in that like
we'll
upper tier.
Give you a $400 wine, we just won't charge you for wine. So, you know, you spoke a lot about what Italian wines often, at the best kinds of, will bring to a table, but why is it that you have been drawn to Italy? Now, your whole career, I feel like, has been really focused on Italy. what happened to bring you in that direction? What were some of the things that really drew you towards the place, the people, the wines? You know, I've seen you work at Italian restaurants. I've seen you travel to Italy. Why, as opposed to some of the other great regions of the world, what's really drawing you in about Italy?
Well, it's my heritage for one thing. My mother, my whole mother's side of the family is 100% Italian. I still have family in Abruzzo, so it's something I would say I was drawn to starting. I mean, when I first started high school and there was the option to take a foreign language, I wanted to take Italian, and they didn't offer it, so I took Spanish. And then when I got to college, even though it did nothing for my credits, it was all just extra credits, I took 3 years of Italian just because there was something in me that I always knew I had this connection. At the time I was studying fashion, and I thought maybe this will get me a job in Milan. I could go work in fashion in Italy if I, have this base background. But then, I fell into restaurants. I fell in love with the New York restaurant scene, and especially found myself getting drawn to the beverage program. And then I started frequenting Enoteca, partly because it's late night, and I got there, and it was like I opened this wine list, and it's like this insane Italian wine Bible.
So,
and
Enoteca, the venue in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, Rivington,
Ludlow and Rivington, Lower East Side. Yeah, they've been open about nine years now. Actually, I think they just celebrated their 9th anniversary. They're doing great. It's such a fabulous list, and that was their whole thing, was like they also were all about off the beaten track. And I just remember the first time going there and looking through this list and thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I really want to. And I started going there, and Francesco Grosso, who's at Maria now, who was at Enoteca, one of the great sommeliers in New York, who also is like a self-taught. He's a really inspirational person to look at as far as some individual in the wine world. And he was the wine director, and we actually became friends because he had to help me. I had no idea what I was doing. He had to help me with the wine list, and I just started kind of coming in, and I thought I'd really like to work here. I love this, and I'd love to get the chance to work with these wines. And so I made the switch, and I moved over with the help of Francesco. I got my foot in the door, and I started working there. And I remember I said, like, my first week, I asked him, I said, what should I start with first? What should I read first? And he said, Italian Wines for Dummies. And I kind of felt slighted. I was like, well, I'm not stupid. I can
He recommended the same book to me. So.
And he said, no, trust me, Italian Wines for Dummies. And I started with that, and you realize that it's kind of the perfect starter book for Italian wines, because it doesn't really, you still are reading things, you're like, I don't know if I'm quite grasping this, but eventually suddenly you are, and then you start having questions that you realize are beyond the grasp of that book. And that's when then you move on to like Vino Italiano, or you just start specifically looking into researching items on your own. And so
Vino Italiano, the Tali Bastianich book about regional Italian.
Which I would say was a big inspiration for my trip, because you read this and they're driving around Italy and you're like, I need to do my tour. Like, when can I do my tour? So, and I got to meet David Lynch a few times, and
also one of the
co-authors of, he wrote it with Joe Bastianich, and there's just Mario Batali kind of food inserts in there. And I got to meet David Lynch several times in my career with Enoteca, and I was so excited to meet him and say, I can honestly say I probably read your book more than any other book that I've read, just because I would finish a chapter, and if I couldn't remember the whole thing, I would just reread it again, and just flashcards and taking notes on wines I tasted, and seeking out new wines and producers. And it was a lot of my own personal effort, but there was always been something about Italy for me, and for some reason I feel like the day I cracked that list at Enoteca, it was like the connection was made. I felt like this is it. This is my connection to Italy, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And so it's exciting for me that I've been able to come this far.
Well, I have to say, as a patron at this restaurant, I think one of the things that you really bring to a guest table is that level of excitement, and I would encourage everyone to come on down and meet Liz at Maialino in Gramercy Park Hotel. Thanks a lot, Liz.
Thank you, Lovey.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.